Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Maine Morgue. I'm Jamie Sanmore, your host, as always. I'm going to try to keep it kind of low-key this week. Had a pretty rough emotional day today. I want to start off this week by saying thanks for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I got a lot of cool stuff I want to talk about this week. So I'm going to just jump in with a little bit of news that happened this week. Robert Englund has returned to A Nightmare on Elm Street as Freddy, in that he's going to be doing a new documentary titled Nightmares in the Makeup Chair, which is, they're going to show you how they apply the makeup and all this other stuff, and he's going to tell stories and inside stuff about Nightmare, which I think is really cool. I personally am not a fan of the documentary stuff, but I am going to see this because I'm a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street and Robert Englund. So that's one piece of news. Another piece of horror news, Friday the 13th has decided to work with Legacy Effects. They have done work on Hunger Games and Iron Man 2, as well as Shutter Island. And from what they're saying, the mask for the new Friday the 13th that comes out later this year is going to be very much a mask from part 3 of the original series. That really interests me. I think that's an amazing mask, and I think where it's the first mask that Jason uses in the original original series, I think it's very important that they use that mask. So I look forward to seeing what it looks like, and of course I look forward to seeing Friday the 13th in theaters in, I believe it's October. As you can see over here, I am a huge Friday the 13th fan. So I'm very much looking forward to that. The last bit of news I want to talk about is Ben Affleck has stepped down as the director of The Batman. And I get why he did it. I'm not going to panic as I'm a fan. This, to me, is something that is important. You shouldn't write, direct, produce, and star in a movie if you can't do all those jobs successfully. And that is what Ben Affleck is thinking. He is writing the screenplay. He is, of course, playing the pivotal role of Bruce Wayne / Batman. So, and I think he needs to focus on those things. And Jeff Johns, who's taking over kind of the direction of the new DC Cinematic Universe, is going to work with Ben Affleck, and they're going to find a director that's going to make their movie. Not a movie that the director wants to make, the movie that Ben Affleck has written, and the movie that Jeff Johns wants to see. I think this is an amazing thing for him to do, and it takes a lot of courage to say, hey, I can't do it all. Hey, I need a break from all this pressure. So thank you, Ben Affleck, for doing that. It takes a lot of courage to do it. I can't wait to see The Batman. I'm very, very excited about this movie, as I am all the DC movies. I can't wait to see Wonder Woman, Justice League, The Flash, Aquaman, The Batman. I can't wait to see what they do with all of these franchises as they expand their ever-expanding cinematic universe. All right, I want to talk about Gotham right off the bat this week. The Gentle Art of Making Enemies was the title of this episode. It was episode 14 and the winter finale. A lot of craziness in this episode. More Court of Owls stuff. A lot of clues. Jim Gordon's uncle is a member of the Court of Owls, which, why? I don't understand. I don't understand where they're going with it, and I think that's the point. Jerome wanting to kill Bruce, and his reason I thought was funny, because when Jerome died, quote unquote died, the last thing he can remember wanting to do was kill Bruce Wayne. So when he is resurrected, the last thing he thought of was killing Bruce Wayne, so now he wants to go out and kill Bruce Wayne. The conclusion of the Edward Nygma, Oswald Cobblepot, Penguin storyline was good, and I don't think it's the end. I don't think Penguin's dead. I do like the idea that they're bringing the Riddler in finally, which, everybody knows Edward Nygma goes on to become the Riddler. Penguin, again, like I said, I don't think he's dead. I think he's going to be off the show for 2 or 3 episodes, and they're going to bring him back, and he's going to cause havoc for the Riddler and all these other, the 5 families, I guess is what they're called. The birth of the Riddler, I was like, oh my fucking god, I'm excited for this. because the Riddler's always been one of my favorite Batman villains. In this episode, at the end, Bruce makes the one rule: I will not kill. And this is his first big step into becoming Batman, because we all know Batman has the one rule: he won't kill. So this, I think, is great timing moving forward. I think we're going to see Bruce step up and even maybe without the cape and cowl start fighting crime or training to fight crime. I think we're going to see his training regimen upped just a little bit. So, I'm really looking forward to the second half of the season, which comes back in April, I think the thing said. And the final shot we see of the teaser trailer, which came out yesterday, is Nigma walking away from the pier where he shot Penguin, and he fell into the ocean, or river, rather. I guess it'd be a river. He's walking away wearing the all-green suit. Thank God they didn't put the question marks on it right away, because that would just make no sense right away. But I thought that was amazing. I thought it was really cool. Again, I'm very, fucking excited to see the Riddler. Next up is Supergirl, episode 10, titled We Can Be Heroes. This episode was kind of all over the map for me. I'm not really digging this whole white Martian stuff. And I really didn't until Sean did the right thing and helped the white Martian. Monel in superhero kindergarten, I thought was hilarious. It's funny just the way you put it. Excuse me. Livewire returning, I thought was pretty cool. I like that story arc. I love the story between Supergirl and Livewire. Monel and Supergirl continuing to flirt with a relationship. It's cute, but it kind of takes away from the action for me, which, it's fine. It's kind of a nice little distraction. Supergirl in this episode discovers who Guardian truly is. Jimmy Olsen. And she's taken aback by it. Why would you risk your life? You don't have superpowers. You're not a superhero. I am. And so James gets all, and what Monel is it? Well, yeah, of course he is. He's superpowered. That's her thinking. And, I like the Guardian character. And, again, I don't read comic books or anything like that. So I like this character. I'm going to pose this question, and I actually wrote it in my notes for Arrow, which is going to happen later in the show. Are they giving Supergirl too many team members to deal with? Because you have Monel, Supergirl, the DEO, which, John Jones, who's Martian Manhunter. You have, Danvers there, their sister there. And the computer geek guy, I can't remember his name. And Guardian. So now you have all those people. Oh, and Monel. So you have all those people. Is Supergirl's team getting too big right now? More on that later. I think it could be cool to see Guardian helping Supergirl as a team, but not to overdo it. Because, how much can Guardian really do that Supergirl can't do? It's a thin line. Too much of Guardian helping Supergirl makes Supergirl look weak. That's all I'm saying. All right. Next up is The Flash. Episode 11, titled Dead or Alive. Absolutely great episode this week. Loved the Vibe costume. I thought it was really cool. From what I've been told, it's very close to the comic book Vibe costume, which is kind of cool. Gypsy was a cool character. I thought bringing her in her story arc and her storyline was actually very interesting. HR, he's weird but complex. Good character. I think the show needs a Wells in some capacity. I just have a hard time putting him on Team Flash because he's such a goofball. And he's not a science mind like the original Wells. The story of Cisco being HR's hero I thought was really cool because, I mean, Vibe is a hero. Cisco is a hero. He helps Team Flash in ways that most people couldn't. Awesome fight scene between Gypsy and Vibe. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was entertaining. Iris and Kid Flash as a duo is a little weird for me. Now, I get it in Flashpoint. They were a crime-fighting brother and sister team. This isn't Flashpoint. This is, the real thing. And I don't think they should really expand on that Iris and Kid Flash thing. Even though they're brother and sister, I don't think that should be a main focal point of the show going forward into the rest of the second half of the season. I think Team Flash keeping Joe out of the loop as it pertains to Iris and her fate is good and bad. It's good in the fact that he would always worry about her and always want to be around to protect her and blah, 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 blah. But it's also bad because when he finds out, he's going to freak out. And I think he kind of knows something's going on. He just doesn't know what yet. Julian being a part of Team Flash, I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I like the actor. The character is good. And he's a bit of a dick. But I mean, that's just the way they've written the character, and that's just the way they want the character to come out. And they make the joke that you really need to work on your interpersonal skills. And Caitlin just looks at him like, really, bitch? And then later in the episode, he says, well, I'm not the only one that needs to work on my interpersonal skills. And he's right. They all have problems with their interpersonal skills on Team Flash, and that's just the way it is. Julian, to his credit, does show Cisco how to beat Gypsy. So, he is proving to be useful for the team. Overall, solid episode. Next week's looks good too, according to the preview. We'll see what happens. But overall, an amazing episode. Next, we have Legends of Tomorrow, episode 10, titled Legion of Doom. And I just want to say, everybody knows I'm a wrestling fan. Longtime viewers of the show know I'm a wrestling fan. And Legion of Doom is a legendary tag team of Hawk and Animal, managed by Paul Ellering. So I think it's funny that they use the title Legion of Doom for this group of people. Excuse me. I love the development in this episode. I absolutely love everything about this episode with Malcolm and Damien Dark and Eobard Thawne, who's, of course, the Reverse Flash. The Legends find out who the Speedster is and why he's always moving from time to time without staying where they are currently for very long. Stein's daughter was very interesting in this episode, and yes, she's a time aberration, but I think she's an important part of the show because it gives Professor Stein something to fight for now. He can go home to his daughter, his wife, and his daughter now. And through the episode, she's not to know that she's a time aberration, and Mick, who's a fucking dumbass, lets it slip, and she's decided that her father never wanted her, never wanted children, da-da-da-da. And through the episode, you really feel for the character. And at the end, they finally realize that, Dr. Stein finally realizes that I do want my daughter, I do need my daughter, I do love my daughter. And now that they kind of hug it out and everything's cool. The Legion of Doom finding Rip's memories was cool. That whole thing with him in the bank. I love this character of Phil, who doesn't realize that he's Rip Thorne. Rip Thorne. Rip Hunter. Jesus, Rip Thorne. I just looked down at Eobard Thawne. My bad, sorry. I think it's funny, yet kind of like, okay, come on, just figure out your Rip Hunter. Come on, man. So they get his memories, and they're reprogramming him. And which is really funny, because now I guess he's going to be like a bad guy for an episode or two, maybe the rest of the season, I don't know. The appearance of the Black Flash, I thought was cool. Going back to Rip Hunter for a minute being a bad guy or a member of the Legion of Doom by default, I wonder how much trouble they're going to get into with all the time aberrations they're going to create. Anyways, more on that at the end of the episode. Black Flash I thought was cool, and I watched a video from, I think it was Pagey here on YouTube, explaining who and what the Black Flash is, because I had no clue. I thought he looked cool, great character. It turns out when I watched the video, I found out who it is. It's actually a guy from last season. Fuck, what was his name? Anyways, more on that later. I love the Rip Phil thing. Like I said, it's interesting, it's funny, it adds a lot of comedy to the episode. The rest of the season should be amazing. And remember, Legends has a shorter season than the rest of the Arrowverse. So they're moving at a faster pace to get to the finish line. So we'll see what happens next week. In the clip from next week, or for next week's show, actually, it's not even a clip. At the end of the episode, Rip Hunter goes into 1776 and shoots George Washington. Which, I mean, that's going to cause a whole bunch of fucking trouble for the timeline, because we all know how important George Washington was to the beginning of our country. The USA. I shouldn't say our country. People around the world watch this show. So I'm really excited to see what happens next week. The trailer that I watched for next week's episode, they're going to have M16s in the American Revolutionary War, which ought to be interesting. And I mean, Legends can do whatever they want. I mean, they're time travelers. They can bring a nuclear bomb to 1776 if they want to. Very interesting to see what's going to happen on this show. Next up, Arrow. Episode 11, titled Second Chances. A solid episode, really. Kind of weak in places, but at the end you kind of saw it and it made sense. This new Canary, I personally think it's too soon to replace Laurel Lance, and I thought that at the beginning of the episode. Second Chances is a huge part of this episode, and Tina Bolin and her backstory of her lover, who was her partner, is killed, basically right in front of her by a crime boss. I thought it was interesting. I mean, it's nothing we haven't seen before in the Arrowverse, but I really thought that her whole thing, and when she gets her canary cry, that's what we all call it, because of the particle accelerator explosion which created the Flash and all of these other metahumans, she decides that she's going to use this power to kill the man that killed her boyfriend, which I thought was very admirable in a lot of ways, and very comic booky, very revenge-driven, stuff you'd expect from a superhero story. The flashbacks were a little wonky for me this week. I did enjoy them. When I watched it a second time, it made more sense to me because they're building that Talia al Ghul character, which I'm hugely a fan of. The actress that plays her was in Jason X, so when I found out she was being cast as Talia al Ghul on Arrow, I was like, yes, awesome, gonna be amazing, I can't wait to see it. And so far, she has not disappointed. I was a little off-put by no Prometheus. And, I was like, I guess, Prometheus doesn't need to be in this episode because it's really not, the events of this episode have nothing to do with Prometheus. I mean, he's mentioned in passing, I think, once in the episode, and not by name. What I was talking about earlier in the show, are there too many members of Team Arrow? You have the Arrow, or Green Arrow, Overwatch, which is Felicity, Spartan, which is John Diggle, Wild Dog, which is Renee, Mr. Fantastic, who's Curtis, and Ragman, who's Rory. And now you have Dinah Drake, the new Black Canary, who I think they should just call Canary, because I think calling her Black Canary is insulting to the memory of Laurel Lance. And of course, we all know Laurel's real first name was Dinah, and that solidifies her in Oliver's mind as the Canary, because they shared the same name. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members of Team Arrow. I think that's way too many, and they're going to have a hard time fitting everybody in to every episode. And the episode has Felicity becoming more into her hacktivist past when she meets a super fan of hers who became a hacker because of Gray Fox Goddess, I think her name was, who was Felicity back in the day in college. Is she going to stay with Team Arrow, or is she going to go back to her hacktivist ways? If so, I could see Mr. Fantastic, who's played by, who is Curtis in his everyday life, is his secret identity. Could be the new Overwatch, because he's not really good in the field. He's good with the technical stuff. So I could see him becoming the new Overwatch and staying in the Arrow Cave should Felicity decide to leave Team Arrow. Diggle is out on bail due to some hacktivist work by the Helix group, which is another thing I'm going to talk about here in just a second. I think that's good. I would have liked to see them do something more dramatic, like where they broke him out of jail last time, but this works too. And he's out on bail now, so he's still in trouble, but not going to die when he leaves Iron Gate prison. Where's it? Iron Gate? No, Iron Heights. Right, Iron Gate. Blackgate, as I was thinking from the Batman movies. Helix. I don't know anything about Helix from the comics or anything like that. Who are they and what are they after? Are they truly trying to change the world? Are they trying to cause chaos? Because, other than Felicity, how many good hackers are there in the world? And I don't mean good in terms of skill. I mean good as in good-hearted people that want to help people. The girl says that, Helix is a group that can take down politicians, people of power, topple governments, things like that. So you got to wonder, and to steal something from the Marvel Universe, with great power comes great responsibility. They have all this power, but are they going to be responsible in using it? That's all I got this week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, please hit that little like button below. It really helps the channel. That way I know what you guys like me to talk about. I will be getting back into the swing of things with horror stuff. There just really isn't a lot for me to talk about right now. I'm very interested in these DC shows right now. As things start progressing with films like Friday the 13th and the new Halloween movie that are supposed to be coming out this year. And of course we have Cult of Chucky coming out, which sounds very interesting. I'll start talking about more horror stuff too, because I know that's what you guys like, as this is a horror YouTube channel, but I'm really psyched about these DC shows. If you guys want me to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., let me know. I do watch that every week. I've kind of lost interest in it. I'm not really into the whole robots thing, or androids, whatever you want to call them. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this week. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, please like the video if you enjoyed the content this week. It really, truly does help the channel and me to know what you guys like and know what you guys want me to talk about on future episodes. See y'all next week, and of course, may the Force be with you.